Okay, chapter 24. I think that might be the long, winding path that they were walking on before. Ignoring Yishan's further questions, Yana hurried them onward, though not as quickly as before. However, Pinmai's thoughts continued to race. Eastern side, western side, why? Did it have anything to do with Ama? If Ama was here, could they find her? Pinmai gazed upward, trying to calm herself. It was then that she noticed the beams and ceiling of the corridor were painted with hundreds of scenes from different stories. The old man of the moon with his bag of red threads, the spirit of the mountain holding up the moon as only he could. Pinmai recognized all of them, and Yana noticed her gaze. The long walkway is supposed to show a picture from every important legend, Yana said. They say a new painting appears right before a story of greatness is about to be told. I wonder what kind of magic can do that, Lady Meng said, looking up in appreciation. Yeah, I don't know if I believe it, the servant girl said, even while urging them forward. But these were all created over 100 years ago by the master painter Chen, who was supposed to have a magic paintbrush or inkstone or something like that. He even painted a picture of a dragon that came to life. So, is that in one of the paintings? Yishan said, teasing. Yes, Pinmai said softly. She had actually seen it. She'd seen an image of a red dragon flying off of a paper as they had rushed past. Anyway, Yana said, not hearing Pinmai's whisper, it's not like anyone would be able to prove it either way. You'd have to know thousands and thousands of stories to know all the pictures. I walk here all the time, and I don't know any of the ones that we just passed. None? Pinmai said, her shock making her voice louder than she'd intended. Yishan gave a sly grin. Well, I bet Pinmai knows all of them, he said. And then Yana turned to look at Pinmai, who would have flushed if her cheeks had not already been red from the cold. Do you? Yana asked. Pinmai gave a tiny shrug and nodded. Yana stopped walking. We can take another rest, she said, and then waved up toward one of the ceiling beams. She looked up at Pinmai. Do you know that one? It had begun to snow again, and despite the walkway's canopy, the snowflakes flew in like fine silver threads. But Pinmai could still easily see the painting. It was a picture of a young girl and her parents standing before a king. In the girl's arms, there was a large bowl with a smiling fish in it. Yeah, I know that one. It's the story of how a girl brought joy to the heart of a king, Pinmai said. Well, now you have to tell it, Yana said, and a crooked smile formed on her face. It fit her face so perfectly that Pinmai realized Yana's serious manner was a new occurrence. So can you tell it? Of course she can, Yishan said, and Lady Meng nodded in agreement. Pinmai hesitated, but looked at their expectant faces, proud, encouraging, even daring, and she felt the stone of Ama's bracelet on her wrist, strong and smooth. Pinmai took a deep breath, and when she exhaled, the air steamed from her mouth, curving like the tail of a dragon before disappearing. And she began the story. The story of how a girl brought joy to the heart of a king. When the first king of the city of bright moonlight came to power, the people had no love for their new ruler. The past ruler had taxed them heavily and punished them harshly, and they had no hope for better. Sounds like me taxing you guys on the carpet. Ha ha ha. So when word came that the new king was coming to visit, all people trembled. He's coming to see if he can raise our taxes, a woman wailed. Anything he sees, he will take for a tribute, another cried. The villagers began to panic and hide their most valued possessions. Gold ingots, ivory chopsticks, even prized crickets were secreted away. Anything beloved or cherished was put completely out of sight. One girl in the village had a special treasure. It was a fish, but not an ordinary fish. It was a fish of great beauty, silver like the moon, and as lively as a butterfly in spring. The girl claimed she had found the fish in a rubbish pile outside a rich home when she traveled to a far town, but nobody believed her. Even when she pointed at the fine scar that ran through the fish's fin, where she said she had mended it, her parents told her to stop being so ridiculous. Nevertheless, the fish was admired and beloved by the whole village. The youngest child to the oldest, grumpiest elder would come daily. Sorry, let me read that again. I messed up. The youngest child to the oldest, grumpiest elder would come daily just to see it. You're a little fish, the girl's mother told her, shaking her head with a smile. It just brings joy to the heart. Kind of like Lily's smile when she's feeding birds brings joy to mine. So, of course, when the news of the king's visit was heard, all expected the girl to hide the fish. I can help you make a special cover to hide the tub, one villager offered. There might be room in my hollow tree if you want to hide it there, another said. But the girl just shook her head. Instead, she kneeled beside her fish, deep in thought. You must hurry, her mother scolded her. If you don't find a place to hide your fish, the king will take it when he comes. Well, he can have it, the girl said. It'll be my gift. What? Her father said. Don't be silly. The king doesn't need your fish. He will just take it, and your treasure will be lost. How can you say that? The girl said. A king needs joy in his heart, too. Sorry, somebody's driving by playing music. The parents looked at each other, and nothing more about the fish was said. So when the king arrived, he was saddened by his reception. He knew that the people didn't trust him, but he did not know how to gain their faith. He received each obligatory gift, knowing that the good wishes that went with it were false, and the respectful bows were shallow. It's not even worth trying, the king thought, gloom overwhelming him. I guess I'll just return to the palace. More villagers, your majesty, a servant said. The king looked up, expecting to see another family with smiles of clenched teeth. Instead, he saw a glistening fish frolicking in the water. It jumped a perfect arch, its scales shimmering, then dived straight down, splashing the king with such glee he couldn't help but laugh out loud. See, the girl said to her parents, I told you. The king wiped the drops of water from his face, but the smile remained. What do you mean? The king said, before the girl's parents could hush her. What did you tell them? Slowly and uncomfortably for the parents, the story was told. The king wiped his face again, but this time the wetness was not from the splashes of the fish. You are right, the king told the girl, and his deep black eyes met her shining ones. A king does need joy, and I thank you for doing so. But I cannot take your beloved fish from you, he continued. You can keep it. Oh no, the girl said, and the parents put in hastily. It's our tribute gift. Oh, but It would be unfair to the other villagers, the king's assistant murmured, and it would break tradition. Ah, yes, the king said. He looked again at the twinkling fish. Then let me make it a gift. I will set it free in the lake, and it can continue to bring joy to the hearts of all the villagers. But what about your joy? The girl asked. Oh, but the fish has already brought joy to my heart, the king said, as have you. And all the villagers who witnessed this exchange felt the stirring within them as well. Perhaps, they thought, perhaps they judged this new king too quickly. They began to whisper kinder and more hopeful words about the king, and those words traveled with him as he carried on his tour. Because instead of returning to the palace, the king continued going to each village so he could become the leader he wished to be, heartened by the joy brought by the fish. And that is the story of how a girl brought joy to the heart of a king. I like that, Lady Meng said as Pinmai finished, especially because the first king of the city of bright moonlight is known for being the greatest ruler in all the city's history. All his descendants, including King Kaijai, revere him. Well, it's too bad it's just a story, Yenna said, her crooked smile appearing again. The wind loosened a lock of her hair, and it danced freely among the flying snowflakes. But it was a good one. Chapter 25. The long walkway ended in a courtyard, flanked by red columned buildings, their dignity belied by the distinctive noise of snoring. Yenna marched forward and pushed open the carved doors of the main structure. Inside, a lone servant blinked up at them. Fishing in empty water, are you? Yenna scolded. How dare you sleep when you should be working? The servant, a graying older woman, threw herself on the floor, keening with apologies. Yenna shook her head and sighed. These are the king's guests, she said with a tone of authority. They'll be staying for at least a couple of days. Start the coal heaters and make sure their rooms are comfortable. The servant nodded and bowed. As Yenna waved her hand in dismissal, the servant snatched up her fallen broom and scurried away. I probably saved her life, Yenna said with a hint of her crooked smile. This place has been empty for months. You could freeze to death sleeping here. But Pinmai only looked at Yenna curiously. She was scarcely half a head taller than Yishan, but she ordered servants around as if she'd been at the palace for decades. As if hearing her thoughts, Lady Meng spoke. Have you been here a long time? She asked Yenna. It's unusual for someone so young to have so much responsibility. Yenna's impish grin returned. Yeah, that's your nice way of saying I'm not old enough to be the head of the king's servants, she said. And I'm not. I worked in the kitchen. At first. Huh. You went from the kitchen to the king's attendant, Yishan said. That's quite a jump. Why were you working in the kitchen? Well, my father got into some trouble. It was a long time ago, before the Tiger King became emperor. Yenna was starting to stammer, but she took a deep breath and continued. I was just happy to find a place where I could stay. Where did you come from? Lady Meng asked kindly. Oh, Yenna said vaguely. Just a village by the sea. While the sea is far away, Lady Mang said. You traveled quite a distance. Ha! I rode a horse, Yenna said, and her eyes softened with the memory. It must be quite a horse, Ishan said, watching Yenna's face closely. It had taken on a wistful, dreamy expression. Oh, it was, Yenna said. The most beautiful white. But it's gone now. It was never mine anyway, though it didn't belong to the king either. A beautiful white horse, Pinmai thought. That sounds like Bai Ma. Could he? But Lady Mang interrupted with talking. The king took your horse? Lady Mang said, slightly shocked. I can't believe that Kai Jai. No, Vienna said, shaking her head rapidly. I meant the Tiger Emperor, not the king of bright moonlight. It was the Tiger Emperor when he was king who wanted the horse. But she looked at their confused faces and quickly continued. Anyway, when I got here, I was able to get a job in the palace kitchen, just scrubbing floors, washing dishes, that sort of thing. Okay, so how did you get to be the king's attendant? Ishan asked. Oh, I volunteered. The Tiger Emperor took all the men to go work on the wall, Yenna said. So that left only women and girls here at the palace. But there are some guards, Ishan protested. Ah, yeah, but the king can't trust them, Yenna snorted. They're all spies for the emperor. The emperor is spying on the king? Why? Ishan asked. The emperor could just kill the king, like he did all the others. No, he can't, because the emperor needs him, Yenna said. Why? They all, even Pinmai, asked in unison. The king said you were friends, she said, and Pinmai was surprised to see Yenna looking directly at her. I think I can trust you. Yishan said, Of course, but it was only when Pinmai nodded that Yenna continued. Well, Yenna said, dropping her voice to a whisper and looking around hastily. Remember what I said about the western side of the walkway? And she waited until they all nodded at her. When the emperor comes, he and the king go out to the western side of the garden, and all his guards have to camp on the eastern side of the long walkway. Even his guards don't go with him to the western side? Yishan asked. Yenna shook her head. No one crosses over to the western side when the emperor is here, she said. Not a servant or a guard. They wouldn't even dare to shoot an arrow. Like I said, you'd be killed if you did. I bet even a bird would be killed if it were there at the same time as the emperor. So, does the emperor come often? Lady Meng asked. Yenna nodded. But only for one night when the moon is full, she said. And he leaves right after as fast as he can. And the emperor is here now? Yishan said, disbelief creeping into his voice. Well, it is a full moon tonight, Yenna said, shrugging. That's when he and the king go out to the garden alone at night when the moon rises. But why? Lady Meng said. What do he and the king do? Yenna shrugged and began leading them through the empty hall to a chamber door. I asked the king once, but he told me it was safer if I didn't know, she said. But whatever it is, only the king can do it, and the emperor needs him. That's why no one is allowed to harm the king, but the king isn't allowed to do anything either. What do you mean? Lady Meng asked. Well, this palace, it might as well be a prison, Yenna said. The king is not allowed to leave, and no one is ever allowed to see him. We did, Yishan said. That's true, Yenna said, frowning. She stopped at the door and opened it. I sure hope you don't get in trouble for it. And that is where we stop for today.